Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Chew. I'm Robert Wallace. This is the place where we ask, am I choosing the way of Jesus, or am I choosing my own way? Now, I've shared chews in the past on love, and the frame of our passages for this week is different. Jesus speaking of love that is even for our enemies. This is different and on a different level, a deeper level. For those who have followed Jesus for a few years and longer, we might have forgotten where we started. As sinners, lost to Jesus and God the Father. As sinners, we were enemies of God. Listen to what James, the brother of Jesus, says to us in James chapter 4, verse 4. You adulterous people, why don't you know that friendship with the world means enmity against God? Therefore, anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. Now, these are strong words from the brother of Jesus. Let's don't miss the point. The ways of the world are in direct opposition to the ways of God and His kingdom. The motivation of the world is self-seeking. It's driven to worldly gains. Now, I know that there are lost people out there who seek to do good. And this explains why we have so many charitable organizations in the world seeking just to give back to community, to give back to other people. However, when it comes to the enemies, the world's answer is to do harm in any number of ways. This isn't our focus. In fact, it's the opposite. Jesus is telling us to love our enemies, to do good to them. The love here is deeper than letting someone be in peace because they're our enemy. Jesus wants us to remember the Good Samaritan, the parable in Luke chapter 10, verses 30 through 37. Now, I know this parable is about neighbors and how to treat neighbors, but at the same time, Jesus asks the question, who is our neighbor? And He wants us to know that everyone is our neighbor, and that includes enemies. The totality of God's love for His enemies can be wrapped up in John 3:16 and 17, right? It's found in the Passion of Christ on the cross at Calvary. And Paul reminds us in Romans chapter 8 or 5 verse 8, but God demonstrates His love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, when he was facing death, he had written this down, a prayer. Give me such love for God and men as will blot out all hatred and bitterness. This is the prayer that we need for our enemies, to have such a deep love for God that we can love our enemies without any reservation or hesitation. Am I willing to ask God to fill me with His depth of love for even my enemies? Am I willing to love God's way? Am I willing to risk getting hurt when loving someone doesn't work out? Am I willing to pray that my hatred and bitterness will be blotted out? What is the Holy Spirit telling me about myself from these passages and this chew today? Am I going to choose the way of Jesus that leads to life and life in the full, or am I going to choose my own way? I'm praying for us as we revisit these verses today from Luke and Mark, and as we consider what I've shared here today, and the questions prompted by the Holy Spirit. Let's invite the Holy Spirit to give us eyes to see and ears to hear God's truth from His Word. Let's have receptive hearts and minds to receive these truths, and then let's take a step of faith today in action with the same boldness, commitment, and courage of Jesus to do what we're led to do. I pray you'll have a wonderful day, my friends. Go in the peace of God. Blessings to you. Bye for now.